Bicycling is a means of transportation. Everybody's seen them, everyone's ridden them, but everyone also has a limit, whether that be a few miles or the temperature or available time. I found mine after days of riding 60 or more miles, carrying around 8 pounds of water on my back, pedaling a 27-pound bike with 23 pounds of gear on me. That doesn't account for the 235-pound cyclist having to move himself as well. This probably is the first literacy of bike packing, or bike riding in general: weight. Everything has weight, and weight reduction has a cost. While I can't necessarily say there is an expert who can be drawn on into the conversation about what that looks like, I can say that each pound costs about $100 until you get down to 30 pounds. So the cheaper your bike, the more it weighs. After the magical 30-pound mark, then, the cost to play becomes steeper. Until you get down to the 20-pound range, each additional pound of reduction is probably closer to $200 to $300 per pound. So a 50-pound boat anchor, what we like to call a bicycle-shaped object, is probably easily found under $200. Once you get over the $600 range, then, you start to get closer to that 30-pound mark. $1,500 would get you down to around 27 to 30 pounds, but then the cost is made up for by manufacturers using cheap components, the things by which you make contact with the bike, and the bike makes contact with the road, and the subsequent locomotion produced by you, the rider. Better components aren't necessarily going to live longer. Rather, they're probably going to, you guessed it, be lighter. So when you see someone riding a bike so light that the wind itself starts to buck them around, and they can probably claim it weighs negative 4.5 pounds, understand that the bike probably cost them $10,000 or more. It's probably more expensive than their vehicle. For my trip, I rode more than 300 miles on a steel frame Jamis Renegade made of coveted Reynolds 631 model steel with a carbon fork, 40 centimeter Wilderness Trail bike nanos, and 105 Shimano drivetrain, all tied together with a chain from another company, SRAM, just because it had a different power length. If all that sounds like hyper-technical talk for a bike and bike parts, you're probably going to need a translator. This is another literacy. I've probably got $2,500 invested in one bike, and my mountain bike is an additional $3,200. And my mountain bike is an additional $3,200. Cash, then, is a literacy of bike riding, which probably allows for a totally new conversation about access, privilege. Cash is the literacy of bike riding, which probably allows for a totally new conversation about access, privilege, and whiteness in cycling, but I digress. As a community practice, then, bicycling is a meta. From the meta of cycling, we get a lot of subgenres which make up the various groups that make up cycling or the bicycling community. There's commuter bikes, Dutch bikes, mountain bikes, road bikes, tricycles, unicycles, and even bikes with a 10-foot tall frame called tall bikes. There are snow bikes and slow bikes, BMXs and downhill bikes, belt-driven, single-speed, and least we forget, fixed-gear bikes. For my trip, I rode a cross bike, which is probably more of a hybrid than what the industry defines as a hybrid. In this case, it's a road bike with drop bars and a high seat position and slightly elevated space between the bottom bracket, what they call the BB height. It's a hybrid then because instead of super skinny 23C tires, such as you would see in the Tour de France, it takes up to 40Cs with a mountain bike type tread, so it's more able to handle riding on gravel and even some mountain terrain. Another literacy in this conversation, then, is place. You either can get lost or find yourself when bike packing. Maybe it's a little both. Let me explain. Humans love each other. They huddle together for fire, for warmth, and eventually produce more humans. Humans begin to see their resources stretched beyond belief and stop loving, huddling, and producing so much together. This is when they usually turn to some vice or escape. One of those vices or escapes is cycling, which offers solitude, time to think, exercise, mobility. When you stand in the university plaza and listen to the screaming banter of activists and others, you cannot hear yourself over the yelling of evangelical commentary. When you stand 100 miles from civilization on a thin strip of travelable-ish land, and you look out and see the moon in one corner of the sky and the sun in the other, and a vast wasteland of desert, brush, and mountains between them, and you're alone, you can finally hear something. This is a literacy of alone, because there is nothing to structure what you see, hear, taste, or feel. You are completely isolated and alone, and at your own mercy, and have to let things exist without civilization. You pedal, and space and time move, but the spatio-temporal understanding that is found in town is lost out here. There is nobody to complain to. There is nobody to tell you to keep going. It becomes about yourself. Care to sing at the top of your lungs? Do so. Want to cry? Go ahead. Are you feeling cold? Pedal harder. Are you too hot? Take off extra layers. Or better yet, stop focusing so much on the heat, thinking about things like air conditioning, and start focusing on the things that have you out in the middle of nowhere riding. Dance? Climb off the bike and spin. Or better yet, just jump around on your bike. In this chaos, then, there is no judging, no advice, no ads. It's all about you. You simply are. I see this as another layer of literacy because you'll eventually have to look inside yourself and find that what you see there is something you understand about you. I think most people prove to be illiterate when it comes to themselves because society has literacy built around community and tending to others. If you don't, you're greedy, selfish, and self-centered. If you do, you may actually find that you like yourself in some way that you didn't realize before.